I have had the opportunity to play a lot of games that were released in early access, and quite a lot of times I noticed that the vision which I would have imagined is never truly fulfilled. The reason why I say this is that when we take a look at just the basic game description, which would be a top-down shooter with elements of sandbox, RPG and more, you would expect that these features would work in a synergy to create this amazing experience. And this is why we will be looking at the strong points and the weak points of this title to help you determine if this will be worth your hard-earned money. Let us therefore begin with something that should pull you in and keep you invested for those XYZ amount of hours depending on how much fun you will have. The story follows our main protagonist, Eva Erner, who lives in a world where people live on these floating strange islands or these big massive ships. However, the world is slowly being threatened by the the Swarm, which is like this species of invasive little creatures which are also terraforming the lands and slowly spreading creep. This is totally not a StarCraft ripoff because it's steampunk or something. We are introduced to the story when Eva is just really young for the first time, and her father keeps traveling off to distant regions in hopes to find the secrets about the history of humanity long lost in time due to conflicts between factions or just the general migration thanks to these massive vessels. Problem is that with the exploration he discovers the Swarm and brings a specimen back home, and thanks to Murphy's Law, when he introduces the specimen to people on board of the fathership, which is like your home base, things go really badly. Then we skip into the future where the Swarm has invaded the lands and people who were friends are now foes. And it will be your role to navigate through these skies full of danger in order to help others unite these people in their fight against an oppressive faction called Falcons, which are terrorizing everyone and try to survive the ever more invasive Swarm. Here I have to say that the story is well put together and will slowly be explained during your exploration of the lands as you come across the people who live on said islands and also the treasure chests. As well, you will be introduced to fun elements like you would have to transport a person from island A to island B, and you would need to put them into a box and ship them in your vessel's cargo hold. Almost reminding you of that one episode of South Park where there was this guy who worked in the Amazon fulfillment center and he got accidentally packaged into the cardboard box and he was able to survive being cramped into the box and somehow keep communicating. One special mention goes to the fact that somehow a special species of moth has evolved on these islands and the people became good friends with them, using them for their silk from their cocoons to being able to transport heavy cargo, and you yourself will be given this Pokemon companion called Uma to join you during your travels. You will realize how helpful she is as she will carry a lot of resources off the islands without you having to carry them all the way back. That is until you accidentally press the wrong key and get transported by her onto the ship, and then you must travel along the island all over again, which, trust me, it's gonna happen to you. One negative thing which I have to say for the story right now is how it ends, as the ending to the game currently is absolutely underwhelming. From the final boss battle to how the story ends, I really hope that this will be rewritten or made better, otherwise when players finally get to the end of the story, they will most likely get really upset. Gameplay. So the game will revolve around you traveling to these islands, killing all the enemies to liberate the islands and let the population join your fight. As you will go through these lands, you will come across various resources which you will require for further upgrades or construction of buildings on your home base or the fathership, which in return will produce additional resources or provide you with access to weapons, armor, ship components, and so on and such. Therefore, exploration is going to play a key role, and the game will be gradually making you travel to these specific regions of the world, so you will eventually be getting more advanced resources. And here I see a big problem with the way the game is currently set up, as these islands have been generated not by some random seed maker, but have been created by the studio behind the game, and this means that on your second or third playthrough, all these islands would remain the same and not change. What you will notice is that if you would get the game and play through it, the game will be giving you slowly rewards, like being able to unlock frag grenades, which can clear out debris, blocking the path to some large bird nest, from which you can be carried to some super secret spot on an island, where these treasure chests that hold weapon modifications are locked, as it gives you a reason why to potentially return to those specific islands which you have already liberated. But the problem is that at the time when you come there initially, you don't have the tools to deal with these obstacles. And my problem is that these tools are given to you so late in the game that eventually traveling to all these islands feels more like a chore than a natural exploration loop, or being rewarded for solving the many puzzles which you can come across on these islands. And then there's the possibility that also the islands can be under attack, but 9 out of 10 times you will even forget that the island specifically where there were some debris or the bird's nest which can carry you around to some secret location were even located there, because they are usually at some corner edge of the island and they're not so easily found in the first place. Combat will play a key role of your time spent with the game, as just traveling from point A to point B can be full of danger, and therefore if you have an itchy trigger finger, this game will give you plenty of targets to shoot at. And because not everyone is natural born marksmen, working towards upgrading your gear will be an important part of your playthrough, as both your character and your ship will have option to carry different loadouts in order to be deadly to the enemy you might come across. In later patches, it almost also looked like the game is trying to implement stealth mechanic, as when you are walking towards the enemy, you will actually be able at nighttime to see their field of vision and be able to sneak up on them and knife them from behind, dealing that critical damage. The game here truly shines on one side, as it gives you access to a large variety of weapons, from pistols to shotguns to SMGs, assault rifles to specialized weapons obtained from the gold coins you excavate during your adventure on these islands. And as every person is different, everyone will find that loadout which works for them the most, that is until you ran out of ammo. Issue is that as the time goes by, you will be unlocking all these modifications for your weapons, and just basic weapons can become more overpowered than the Gatling gun you had to save up for from hiding all the hidden golden chests. So maybe having a chance to also upgrade these specialized weapons would be great, as it would actually maintain their relevancy in the later gaming loadout. And as you will be upgrading your weapons and armor, so you will upgrade your ship hull, weapons, and means of becoming deadlier. The variations are truly amazing in this game. However, the weaker point here is the number of variations you will be able to mix and match, especially on your ship, as each hull of your ship can only accommodate certain amount of things. So there will be this sort of weight limitation. This means that at the end of your customization, you will need to squeeze everything into certain limit, and the game will not allow you to therefore get the best cargo hold, engine, propeller, guns, fuel tank, and so on and such onto one massive ship. This is especially problematic for someone like me who is willing to spend a year on World of Warship, grinding out for some ships so that I can have this massive unicorn, which not that many players have, and making the gaming experience therefore for me much more enjoyable. Therefore, adding a final type of ship hull which would be able to hold all the best equipment would be a great addition to the game. This would motivate at least portion of the players to grind for those hard to obtain resources and get this big beast of a ship which is fast, sturdy, and has a lot of armaments. This, I believe, is a big miss, as once players will realize that at certain point you can only have some potential for each ship's hull, this might demotivate players to return to the title or get to the finish line. And this can potentially bring us to the next point: lack of features. So I realize I already touched on the subject, which is the fact that you cannot have some super hull. But overall, I think this game still has room for improvement, especially when we take a look at, for example, the fodder ship alone, your home base. At the start of the adventure, after the years have passed, falcons will bombard the ship and leave it completely demolished with holes in the ship's hull. Yet, as you keep rescuing people on your island and increasing the population that supports your cause, you do not need to fix all the ruins or all the holes in the ship, or build some infrastructure to supply all the people with food, or even properly equip your own home for that matter. As far as I know, majority of the ship can remain in shambles, and it wouldn't make any difference whatsoever. This also therefore removes motivation for players to build farms for provisions or some workshops that would require a specific number of people, which each upgrade to keep fixing up the ship, something to keep the players engaged. Because there's also not a specific requirement where the fodder ship is also a part of like the final battle portion or the end story portion of the game. It doesn't really need to be fully fixed, so there's also this kind of a problem. And while adding all these possible features, as I have to admit, the addition of the raids was a great update for the game, there are still things that I feel that need to be addressed, which brings us to the next section: bugs. As per usual, games in early access tend to suffer with the curse that is bugs. And during my many hours with this game, I came across a bunch of them. Some were very minor, like my ship suddenly acting all funny, disappearing into ether, and me being carried by Luma to the closest island. Two big bugs were actually the Falcons tried to recontest one of the many liberated islands, and I was not able to stop them. Every time I tried to step on the island, I killed all the falcons. The island was still under attack, and when I stepped onto my ship, flew a little bit away and flew back towards the island, the falcons were back, and this meant that I was not able to stop them recontesting the island, and this was really frustrating. The issue here is that if these bugs happen to you, it can be really annoying, as it can take a lot of time, or it can be during a stage of a game where you require a specific population number for some elaborate upgrades to some of your special abilities, and you suddenly lose access to them because the portion of the population which allows this has been lost. One more thing which I need to mention in this section is that I have experienced a lot of crashes. They were random, they appeared out of nowhere, and they had the negative effect of sending me back to another island, to the fodder ship, or so on and such, and these things still happen. Now, thing to keep in mind is that the game is regularly updated, so the crashes might be fixed, but during my time with this game, I have experienced a large variety of bugs, and these definitely need to be addressed in order for the game to be more fun. Verdict. Black Skylands is an interesting game with funny story which definitely deserves a far better ending. The biggest issue for me is that due to how the map is set up and how even on multiple playthroughs your progress will be dictated by the scripted sequences and the level requirements to access each islands specifically, it will be impossible to skip through certain islands to get better gear or those frag grenades which I mentioned previously, to clear out the debris in order to get the weapon modifications. This means that unless the player does absolute maximum during their first playthrough, I don't see anyone actually returning for second or third playthrough ever again. And because the story is also lacking a good ending, my recommendation is to only get the title during a sale so that you get it with a discount, or you wait until the game is fully released. You will definitely have fun playing it, but I personally do not see myself returning for second playthrough because I would simply not see any change to the outcome of either progression or ending, and that is going to be it for this surprisingly short review for Black Skylands. If you want to see more reviews, check out the playlist in the video's description, and also subscribe and hit the notification bell for when the other reviews are going to come out, as I do have a bunch of games I want to review as they are currently being covered by my channel. It's just that I have a day job, so getting there might take a while, so I would appreciate your patience in the meantime. Thank you all for watching, and I hope to see you at the next one or in the comment section. Also, make sure to let me know what games in early access you cannot wait to get your hands on, and which games in early access you are currently playing.